Hi, welcome to the show. Throughout the years, we focused in on schools being sued by parents and community leaders and the members of the community. In Colorado, where we first focused in on this case, Victory Prep Charter School was sued by parents because they're because they violated the kids' First Amendment rights. Now, this was a Victory Prep Charter School back in 2017. What you're about to see is the full video of what happened when they wanted to go into the building and talk to the principal, and then the officer decided to step in and say, if you don't leave, he's going to press charges. Take a look.
I don't know. So what I would recommend at this point, this would be my thought, okay, for you guys, being that everybody's upset, everybody's a little trying to figure out what's going on, and I totally understand that, is to head home now, call, make an appointment with the principal. Give it a little bit of time, Go make an appointment. That way, if you want to do it as a group, if you want to do it individually, and that way, if you guys want to get together and then, figure out how you guys want to handle this, and then that way you can talk to them. And
we're wondering if he's willing to have a parent conference all together with him, because it's not fair that he's not giving any explanation or coming out and talking.
And what I can do is we can talk to. We told him we're going to go back and talk to him.
As a parents, we have the right to request a meeting.
Sure.
All the parents
Sure.
together at the same time.
And I don't think, and I agree with that, but I don't think right now he can do that right now. Yeah. So that way, that he can try to figure out what's going to be the best time to do that and meet with all of you guys.
He could come out and talk to us.
He's just sitting in his office.
And like I said, I don't know his schedule.
He's not choosing not to, but he has to face us.
I understand that.
I want you to let him know that as a parents, we have the rights, and we
He
know
knows.
what is our
He knows.
rights. I know because I used to
And
work
I'll
in
let
the
him,
school.
and I'll let him know that you guys want to talk to him. You want to talk to him as a group,
Yeah.
and that way, maybe he can send something out. Like I said, either as a.
We're gonna wait for him right here.
Wait, unfortunately, you can't wait right here.
We have to, because we have to have it.
Because I'm just gonna let you know right now. If you don't leave, he's gonna press charges, and then everybody's gonna be arrested and ticketed.
Do you think it was wrong, you that you know law and you work? You that you know law and you work. Do you think it was right for him to suspend us, as you say?
And I don't know, like I said, I wasn't here when all that happened, so
Yeah.
I don't know what the school policy is on
But
any of that stuff.
that's why, you don't even know what happened. They were here, they're
Right.
telling us, so we
Right.
wanna hear the principal's part, we wanna hear him before we decide,
Right.
cause we know we have the right to decide with our families, but we wanna hear him, what happened, what's going on, what's his decision, what he wants us to do, what's gonna be the rules. We wanna talk to him, he should come out and face us.
There's always two sides of the story.
You're right. You're
Is
totally
there,
right.
is
Yeah.
there any crime in protesting and hearing and speaking our voices?
But you can't do it on property.
Vamos a pasar más adelante a meter una demanda
You
si
can
nos va a
protest
echar
and
de
exert
aquí a
your
nosotros.
rights, you're right, but you can't do it on school property.
Que sepa. No, pero es que tiene que
Yeah,
ser.
as long as it's peaceful, that you're not blocking traffic, and you're not blocking entrances, yes, you're totally legal to do that. And we wouldn't stop you from doing that. So, but unfortunately right now, and what I will do is I'll pass that.
So that was the full video. But that prompted a lawsuit that was put in place by the parents. And as you're about to hear from the other side, it may hold some clues. Here's Brian Moss.
Being that everybody's upset.
Police were called to Victory Prep Charter School 14 months ago
If you don't leave, he's gonna press charges.
after a student protest against school administrators snowballed, and all 120 students were suspended for the rest of the day. They had refused to repeat the school's daily pledge that morning and submitted a list of grievances. So the school sent everyone home.
Well, at that time, we started recording verbally and started recording video.
But Joel and Mary Flores, who have a student at the school, say it got even worse when they came to pick up their son. They owned this Spanish language newspaper, so documented what happened. 2 days after the protest, they published this front page article.
They didn't like your reporting.
No, they didn't, because it brought bad press to them.
Days after that newspaper's story, the school dropped this letter on the Flores family, saying they had detained students without permission for interviews and created a, quote, false narrative, broken school rules through their reporting efforts. They were, and still are, banned from campus.
We missed all the parent-teacher conferences. We missed all of his soccer games that are home field.
In this new federal lawsuit against the school, parents and students contend other students were suspended for going on Facebook and making derogatory comments about the principal. The lawsuit maintains other students who simply liked those comments were then suspended.
This school has trampled on the constitutional rights of not only the students at the school, but their parents, frankly, the entire community.
Matt Crone represents the Flores family and filed the First Amendment lawsuit.
Kids have constitutional rights in our school system. They don't abandon those rights when they walk through the school doors in the morning.
Joel Flores spent 5 years in the military and says he defended the Constitution and First Amendment freedoms.
As a veteran, that's what I served for.
We repeatedly called Victory Prep CEO and principal, and he did not return any of our calls. We will keep trying.
All right, thank you, Brian.
You bet.
Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. And it's like you try and try and try, and all of a sudden, it just hits you, you know? If that lawsuit hit, then maybe the school would say, well, this and that, blah, blah, blah. We never violate people's rights. Even when you're about to break the law. Still to come, you're going to see a body cam footage of a 5th grader who was arrested. But the twist is, this student was special needs. But first, this student sued the school district for violating her First Amendment rights via social media. It got her kicked off the cheerleading team. But there's a twist to the story. Please stay with us. Could you ever imagine being banned from school property for criticizing the hiring process and then threatening to sue? Well, that's exactly what happened in Uvalde just 1 year ago. The father went to Uvalde school, criticized the hiring process, and said, listen to him. They said, okay, if you're going to criticize what we do, we are going to ban your ass. Get the fuck out of here. And I don't want to see your face again. Okay, well, you're going to kick me out? I'm going to sue you. And as we're about to show you, it may be included in a lawsuit. And he's ready to do so. Because it might be in violation of the First Amendment rights. Take a look.
Adam Martinez still recalls those moments of panic, that daunting phone call from his wife.
She was pretty hysterical and told me that there was an active shooter.
Martinez's son Zayon, in 2nd grade at the time, still carries the mental scars of being in lockdown at Robb Elementary, waiting to be reunited with his parents.
He's doing good. He still won't sleep in his own bed.
Fast forward to February 13th, Martinez approached the Uvalde CISD police chief, Joshua Gutierrez, at a board meeting. He expressed concern about a recent officer hire.
I felt that it was urgent for me to find out more about this hire and make sure that they knew that he was not rehireable according to the sheriff's standards.
Martinez says he calmly refused Gutierrez's order to sit down and was then banned from all school district property for 2 years. The district granted exceptions, allowing Martinez to pick up his daughter from school and attend his son's baseball practices.
Just to me, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing.
Uvalde police can't ban a parent from school property because they don't like what he has to say.
Attorney Jeff Zeman argues Uvalde CISD, including interim superintendent Gary Patterson and Chief Gutierrez, violated Martinez's First Amendment rights. Zeman says there's plenty of legal precedent.
It is his First Amendment right to speak out about his government and criticize his government. We're letting them know that Adam now has counsel, that this ban violates the Constitution, that we will sue if they don't lift it. We've given them until May 22nd to respond.
Martinez hopes the district lifts the ban immediately so he can watch his nephew graduate on May 26 and attend future school board meetings like any other parent.
And if they reached out to the community members a little more, I think we'd be able to come together better.
Zach Briggs, KENS 5.
KENS 5 did reach out to Uvalde CISD for comment on this story, and we're waiting for a response.
I bet their response is going to be, well, we had a right to ban him because We told him to sit down. He refused, so we told him that he couldn't come here anymore. Well, if that would have happened, fall through with the lawsuit and say, okay, well, you're not gonna. If you're gonna ban me, I'm ready to sue you right now. Let's go to court. It's like, okay, we'll lift the ban. Okay. Thank you. This will never stop the cycle of hate. But if any of you have the strength to forgive and rebuild this broken humanity, show me you can overcome evil, never give up. Exactly. Look, I get all these people, you're criticizing all this. It's your First Amendment right to criticize your government. You shouldn't be banning people on school property because you're criticizing the school district. You may accuse the school district of racism. I mean, if you accuse them of racism, then they may want to ban you. It's your First Amendment right. Listen, I can say whatever I want. It's my First Amendment rights. Okay, well, you're going to criticize us, we're going to ban you. Okay, that's a violation of First Amendment rights. I can sue you. Okay, and how are you going to do that? You have no proof. But the son survived and the father is banned. It's like, okay, we can ban you, but we're going to accept you to watch your son's home game, your son's baseball game, and pick up your child. Those are the only exceptions we can give. But here's the thing, though. I mean, I get these people. They went through 2 years of horror, the mass shooting and all. But banning a parent for criticizing his or her government it's just outrageous. Even so, and look, I am all for defending parents. There's no but about it. There's no but, if, and, but, or however. It's been 1 year since this incident, since he was banned. If he follows up with a lawsuit, then possibly it could spread a message saying, well, we made a mistake with him, and we'll lift the ban. Would have sent home with a letter saying, we looked over this, and we're gonna lift the ban. Even one from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, there was a comment that sparked lawsuits and a $65,000 settlement. Let's take a look at this.
Most people know the feeling of getting blocked or deleting a comment on social media. But attorney Andy McNulty says there's a difference when the government is the one doing the blocking and deleting.
The First Amendment protects those spaces in a way that it doesn't protect mine or your Facebook page.
Recently, a judge agreed.
I called him funky.
Back in 2020, Delbert Scagio said those things in a comment on the Woodland Park Police Facebook page, without the bleeps. He criticized one of the police's marijuana raids.
And I told him that he was violating my rights, and if he removed my comment one more time, I would sue him. And he removed my comment, and I ended up suing him, and that's pretty much the gist of it.
Pretty much. 2 years later, and a judge says the city has to pay Delbert $65,000 and change their social media policy.
Even if the police chief doesn't like being called upon, he can't block you.
The settlement says Woodland Park can't remove posts because they deem them vulgar and profane, nor can they remove posts they deem inappropriate.
A lot of people don't know this, but is protected by the Constitution. So, vulgarity, profanity, these things are protected by the Constitution, and the First Amendment protects them just as much as any other word that you would say. So Woodland Park learned that lesson the hard way.
And McNulty said the very first comment Scagio made about this police raid didn't have any curse words in it. It was just critical of police, and that was deleted. That's the point, he says, of this settlement, to make sure governments can't control messages and make it seem like everyone is supportive of their actions, when, Kyle, that might not be the case.
We hear from a good number of people, Katie, who come to us with cases like this, where they say such and such government official or agency deleted my comment. It's not an absolute thing, though.
It's not. They can still delete comments like hate speech, defamation, and some other things. It doesn't fully mean none of your comments are ever going to be deleted again.
Yeah, but bleepity bleep 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 there from that guy did not fall under that. All right, Katie Eastman, thank you.
Bleep 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 bleep. Bleep 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 bleep. Bleep 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 bleep. It doesn't matter. I mean, you're right. They're right. You're violating everyone's constitutional rights. When you violate constitutional rights, that gives you the right to sue the school district. And if it takes up to the Supreme Court, then all of a sudden we have a change, like who's on the right side, the police station or this citizen who complained about it to the Supreme Court. We'll never know. We'll probably never know, but everyone's always on their minds what is your right as a student? Do you have any rights as a student? Well, apparently you do. Coming up, we're going to hear from him. Coming up, we're going to hear, do you, as a student, want to know your rights? Coming up, we are going to hear from Hip Hughes as he explains our rights, as he explains the rights as a student in your school. You might not like the gist of it, but we'll hear from Hip Hughes. Please stay with us. Are you a kid in school and always yelling, "What about my rights? I want to know my rights"? Well, we're going to explain to you your rights as we're going to look through some examples throughout every Supreme Court case, from Tinker versus Des Moines to even your First Amendment rights, even peeing in a cup for drug tests. Here's Hip Hughes.
So we're going to start off with some good news. The actual first case that applies to students in a positive manner is 1943. This is West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett, where a group, a Jehovah's Witness religious group, is basically complaining that they don't want to have to say the Pledge of Allegiance, they don't want to have to salute, and in the 1940s, you were compelled to do so or you could get suspended. And you could see sometimes the saluting was a little bit creepy. But either way, the Supreme Court's going to rule on the side of students who don't want to have to salute, say the Pledge of Allegiance, saying that the government doesn't have the ability to compel you to do that. So it's not so much a freedom of speech kind of idea, but more of kind of a freedom not to have to speak, not to have to act. But the big case, and this is the one you want to study, kiddies, is Tinker versus Des Moines, 1969. So here's the context of the case. It's 1965, the end of 1965, and the Vietnam War is getting a little bit hot, even though it's the Cold War. And Robert Kennedy has basically announced that he wants a truce, a ceasefire, as we approach the Christmas holiday of 1965. And there's a lot of protesters and a lot of anti-war people and a lot of kids that are for this. And that includes the Tinker family. We have John, who is 15, Mary Beth, Paige, Hope, and a friend, Chris Heckard, that get together and they plan on supporting this endeavor by putting on some black armbands and going to the school. And when the Des Moines School District gets hold of this information, and it's not just the high school, but the middle school and the elementary school, they kind of, preempt it by saying, "Don't you dare. We don't want any of that kind of disturbance when we're trying to do the learning." And the kids do it anyway. And then on December 16th, Mary Beth and Chris Eckhart got suspended. John got suspended the next day. And it probably would have ended there if it wasn't for the lobby group, the civil rights organization, the American Civil Liberties Union, who came in and said, "We think we should do something about this." And that case eventually travels to the Supreme Court. They had lost in the lower court of the district court. Court of Appeals was a tie. And now they're there to say that students have some rights. And the court agrees. It's the Warren Court, the liberal activist court, who basically says that it's one thing if you're trying to, promote learning, you're trying to have a calm atmosphere. You're not doing it for that reason. You're doing it because you want to avoid controversy. So students have a right, maybe not to yell in the cafeteria, but they have a right to symbolically protest, even if it's an unpopular opinion, in school. The court says you don't shed your rights at the schoolhouse gate. You got some rights. So enjoy that, because I'm about to poke holes all over your Tinker armband rights. So the first big hole in Tinker is going to be in 1986. It's an episode that occurs in the early 1980s. It's called Bethel School District versus Frazier. And Matthew Frazier is a senior, and he's nominating his friend Jeff to be on the student council. And he gets up there and he says, Jeff is a man who is firm. He is firm in his pants, firm in his character, and firm in his belief in our students. And he will use his point to pound away at this. Ugh. The principal immediately suspends Matthew, saying that you've crossed the line. This isn't freedom of speech. And he's basically saying that's not for you to interpret. This is my freedom of speech. This is the Bill of Rights in action. And the court sides on the side of the school, basically saying that the school has an ability to limit tinker if it comes to things that they can interpret as being sexual innuendos. And they say, obviously, the kid's referring to that, so we have the right to shut you down on that. And there are current cases. For instance, there's some students, middle school students, who are wearing the I Love Boobies bracelet in the kind of the cancer awareness fundraising spirit, and they were suspended, and they actually won their appeals case. It's not going to the Supreme Court. They said that that was a legitimate freedom of expression, and they're allowed to do that. But you better be careful if you're getting a little bit of, close to the hanky-panky, which is hashtag creepy. Another hole for you. This is Morris vs. Frederick, 2007. It was an incident that occurred in Anchorage, Alaska in 2002, where a young man by the name of Joseph Frederick wanted to play a little prank. And basically what occurred was there was a Olympic relay coming through town, so Deborah Morris, the principal of the school, released the students early. Joe wasn't there. He showed up a little bit late, but when he showed up across the street from the school, and as the cameras came out, their big moment was going to be on the TV screens. He unhurls the banner, his freedom of speech in action, bong hits for Jesus. I don't know what's going through the kid's head, but I know what's going through Deb Morris's head as she runs across the street and rips it out of his hands. And eventually, he's going to go to the Supreme Court saying, she violated my freedom of speech. She had no right to do that. And the school says, you better sit down, son. Number one, this was sort of a school-sanctioned event. You were supposed to be in school. The school had let out for that purpose. So whether you were there on your own or you're not, you're representing the school. And number two, it's not so much a freedom of speech issue when you're trying to advocate for drug use. And that's interpretable, but the principal gets to make that decision. So even though you're not in school, and even though you believe it's freedom of speech, the school has a right, because it's sending a message about drug use, to not let you put that banner up. So son, you can sit down again because you're suspended. So you want to print an article in the newspaper, don't you? You think you can do whatever you want because of your freedom? I got news for you. That's going to be limited. This is another hole in tinker. It's called Hazelwood versus Kullmeyer, 1988. And the students basically had written some articles that were first shown to the principal. And one of the articles was on divorce, another one was on teen pregnancy. They were interviewing students, keeping their names anonymous, but the principal was like, I don't think this is a good idea. You're not going to print that. They go all the way to the Supreme Court saying that, if we don't have this freedom of press right in school, how are we going to live it when we get out of school? And the court says, no, school is for learning, and schools have to have the ability to have what's called prior restraint, which means you're going to have maybe more limitations on your freedom of expression when it comes to press in school, because that's not really why you're there. You're there to create a learning environment, and if the school believes it's getting in the way of some kind of pedagogical purpose, then it has the ability to do that. So watch what you print in the newspaper, because you might be going down. Yo, you can't search me. You ain't got no warrant. Fourth Amendment, baby. Psych. Not in school, you don't. This is New Jersey versus TLO, 1985. And basically, these two girls, they're doing a little bit of a smoking in the bathroom. They come out. Someone smells it. The vice principal's like, empty your bag. They're like, we're not going to empty my bag. The vice principal's like, I'm going to empty your bag. And bada boom, you have drug paraphernalia. You're out of here. And now she's going to the court saying he didn't have a right to search my bag. He had no probable cause. He didn't go for a warrant. He just on a whim decided he was going to do this. So it's an illegal search. Therefore, you can't use that in a court of law. Matt versus Ohio. Needless to say, the court says, sister, you better sit down because you're in big trouble. And what they come down to is basically saying the school has a safety purpose. They have to have the ability, if there's reasonable suspicion, to be able to search a student's purse. What if there's a gun in there? What if there's something dangerous in there? We can't have this kind of probable cause warrant court thing going on. You have an expectation of privacy, but not an expectation beyond a reasonable suspicion. Who's the reasonable suspicion decider? I guess that would be, the person in authority. So why don't you empty your pockets? Be careful what you do, kids, because you don't get probable cause. You can't make me pee in a cup. Well, maybe we can. There's actually 2 court cases that deal with student drug testing. Both of them are random drug testing that occur when you join first an athletic group, and this was the earlier court case. This is Veronia's School District versus Alton, 1995, where a student was joining a sports team and basically said, look, I didn't do anything wrong. You can't make me, give up my pee-pee because you just are randomly drug testing. You have to show I did something wrong. And the court says, not so fast, son. We have a duty in school, not only to send a message about saying no to drugs, but to make sure, especially in athletics, you can't be on the field high. You could get hurt. So we have a duty to protect not only the message, but to protect you. We want to protect you. So therefore, it was held constitutional that schools can do random drug testing when you're joining, let's say, the football team or the baseball team or whatever. Now, the next court case, which is a Board of Education versus Earls 2002, doesn't deal with athletic groups, but competitive non-athletic groups like the chess club or the debate club. And remember, the prior message was, we're doing it for your safety. You could get hurt out there. But the court's going to broaden that. They're going to broaden the hole in your kind of Bill of Rights shield by saying, nope, the message of drugs is so important. We have such a duty to protect that we have the right to do random drug testings if you join the chess club. So there you go, guys. That's all the court cases. You got Tinker versus Des Moines. Put that in your pocket, but be careful because there's holes in that pocket. So guys, we hope you learned something about your rights. You might not be that happy, maybe you are, or I don't know, but it's important to be smart. And it's important to know the Constitution and specifically the Bill of Rights. So we put a little playlist together. If you don't know any of the amendments, you can go right there and click them and learn all about them and grow your brain 10 times the size. And if you haven't subscribed to Hip Hughes History, I don't know, you don't want Angry Mickey. You want Angry Mickey? No, of course not. And you want to save puppies. So if you want to do that, click that red button right there. You'll zip through the internet and check out and subscribe to Hip Hughes History. And check us out online at www.hiphughes.com. And thanks for watching, guys. Again, giddy up for the learning, and always remember, where attention goes, energy flows. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
So now you know your school rights. If your school violates your rights, you have the authority to sue. Remember that. When we come back, a student gets arrested. A special needs student, I should say, gets arrested for aggravated assault. But the body cam footage you're about to see, that you'll see, tells a different story. Along with the father who says there was no assault. And did the school violate a new state law prior to that body cam footage? Please stay with us. What you're about to see can and will make you upset and very angry. And it's happening every school that you go to. It is something called kids in handcuffs or kids getting arrested in our schools. Basically, all that happens is just if a student assaults a teacher, then that person can have the right to press charges. But what you're about to see from that body cam, what we're about to show you is a body cam footage of a 10-year-old student with special needs. All these diagnoses. She gets arrested for aggravated assault. But here's the twist. The father that you'll meet says they violated the law. So who was telling the truth? Here's Ginger Helen.
I wanted to talk to you about the situation, and I wanted to let everybody know that you should tell your parents, even when anybody's bullying you,
Fifth grader McKenna Lombardo tells us all about the argument that began on paper with another student last May.
So this girl, she kept on writing me these notes talking about she's talking about my mom and drawing pictures of me like fat and all that.
The situation at Cryer Intermediate School, about 3 hours south of Dallas, escalated, and Conroe ISD officers were called. A report states before police arrived, the 10-year-old was, quote, physically aggressive and throwing markers, and she had pinned her associate principal's arm against a door frame. Once officers got there, they found McKenna on the playground. You hear a teacher explain that her arm was slightly injured. She says she had gotten in the way of a door while McKenna was trying to leave a classroom.
Blocked me into the door, which probably wanted me to just so you know.
You said you get in trouble. You do get in trouble?
Yes, ma'am.
When you watched the video, were you being difficult?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes, I can admit that I was being difficult.
McKenna's father agrees, but Matt Lombardo says the family has been working to get McKenna in the special education program for nearly a year. He provided medical documents to the I-Team showing McKenna is diagnosed with several disorders. All reasons why Lombardo says the discipline you're about to see after the responding officers become frustrated should have never happened. He also says it violates a new state law.
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm not going.
You'll come with me, or we will go to juvenile.
Okay, we will.
Then let's go. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
No.
Turn around, put your hands behind her back. Now you're resistant. Turn around, put your hands behind
I'm
your back.
trying to go get my shoes.
You're not going to get your shoes.
Why?
Now you'll listen. You'll put your hands behind your back.
I need to go get my shoes.
I will get your shoes. Put your hands behind your back.
Well, Jinder Allen is now joining us live in studio. Now, Jinder, start by obviously explaining McKenna's dad that says that he believes that police violated her rights. And tell us what rights exactly or laws does he believe that police violated?
Okay, so before the start of the last school year began and following our investigations nationwide, the Kids in Cuffs law passed. So that states a peace officer may not restrain a student enrolled in 5th grade or below unless the student poses a serious risk of harm to the student, so him or herself, or to another person. So McKenna's dad says at the point she was arrested, this video proves she was a challenge. He had no trouble admitting that. He said that to us. But he says she was not a threat to herself or anyone else, and he truly believes that. Body cam proves that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Dad watched the video numerous times, as most parents would. It is very disturbing to watch as a parent, especially one being like myself, you know, with a child with special needs. What stood out to him the most?
So there was one other part of this, and I want to warn people, this is disturbing, that really bothered him, and rather than tell you about it, I first want to show you. So we're going to play a little bit more of the body cam video so you can see it and decide yourself.
Think about that.
I'm supposed to be doing that.
I've seen you really rough. I've seen you really rough. Well, she's in handcuffs already, so she's going to juvenile. She just gets charged with assault. Assault on a public servant. Oh, yeah. It don't matter.
So let me put this into perspective a little bit for you. After watching all of the body cams, McKenna's father believes the officers repeatedly coerced the teachers in that incident and others as they discuss whether the charges should be filed against McKenna. And you can hear more of this video. Make your own decision. We will put this on our website at cbsdfw.com, and then I will be back here tonight at 10 and we'll show you more of the story, but you can see it all there. I do want to point out that I reached out to the school for their side of this. We've talked to teachers. You know this personally. It can be difficult.
Yes.
These classrooms in particular can be dangerous as well. But the school district did not want to talk to us due to privacy laws. And then the police department has not followed up with me with a response.
Obviously the focus here is this little girl, McKenna. You know, this is a lot for a little girl of her age to go through. How is she doing now?
So I'll start with the positive. Yeah. McKenna is back in school.
That's awesome.
She's back at that school. Her dad's now a volunteer there, and he says, I'm going to be there a lot. She did face 2 felony charges following this from 2 different teachers. But on July 31st, McKenna's dad met with Montgomery County in a Zoom call where they talked about this. It was an intake hearing, and now they have dropped all of those charges against her.
Good to see that she's doing well. She's back in school. A little challenging to go to the same school after, what would be seen as a traumatic event like that, but good for her. It's a bright spot.
He says he's had a lot of meetings with the school, which was much needed, and he seems very positive about where they are headed, and that she is getting what she needs. But I just want to use this as an opportunity, and I know you can relate to this. Parents out there, as your children head into this school year, please be aware of that law that was passed last year. Remember, it involves fifth graders and younger. And if you have questions about a case, we not only want to hear from you, but Senator West has said he wants to hear from us if we hear about these cases.
That's powerful. Okay. Ginger Allen reporting live for us in studio with our I-Team. Ginger, thank you so much for this in-depth report. We really appreciate your time this morning. You can reach the I-Team by emailing I-Team.
And if you think there's probably more to this case than meets the eye, there is. When we return, we're going to look into the law, and we're going to hear more from the parents. And we're especially going to hear from the person that wrote that No Kids in Cuffs law. Please stay with us. Returning to our story. It could happen to your 5th grade. It could happen to your child who's in 5th grade or younger at school. Your child gets handcuffed because they possess no threat, or because it's the only teacher's choice. Well, prior to a 2-year investigation via the CBS News Texas, with all these investigations into all these kids getting arrested for handcuffing, and prior to me telling you all about this on Give Me a Break, there is now a new law that was just passed here in the state of Texas. It is section 38.0000021 of the Education Code, which we're going to show you in just a minute. It's called the No Kids in Cuffs law. It states that a peace officer may not arrest the child 5th grade or under if they possess a threat. Well, you're going to see more of that body cam footage, and you're also going to hear more from the child and from the father. You're also going to hear from the writer of that law, who says they probably violated the law. But what does the school district have to say about this? Once again, here's Ginger Allen.
Cameras are rolling as police arrive at Cryer Intermediate School, a few hours south of Dallas. McKenna Lombardo is on the playground with administrators.
That's why I called you.
Yeah.
We were headed.
A police report states they've been called because the 10-year-old was, quote, physically aggressive and throwing markers, and she had pinned her associate principal's arm against a door frame.
Blocked me into the door, which my phone was just sitting there.
Officers walk McKenna inside. They stop at the bathroom where the 5th grader refuses to come out. The situation escalates as McKenna starts to walk towards the door and then turns around.
Let's go.
I'm not going.
You'll come with me, and we will go to juvenile.
Okay, we will.
Then let's go. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
No.
Turn around, put your hands behind her back. Now you're resisting. Turn around, put your hands behind
I'm
your
trying
back.
to go get my shoes.
You're not going to get your shoes.
Why?
Now you'll listen. You'll put your hands behind your back.
I need to go get my shoes.
I will get your shoes. Put your hands behind your back.
In the minutes leading up to this, you repeatedly hear the administrators tell the officers McKenna's dad, Matt Lombardo, is on the way. Lombardo says the school knew his daughter had autism. Medical documents provided by him show she is diagnosed with several disorders. Eventually, you see Lombardo outside, a former police officer himself, begging them to release McKenna from the squad car.
If they'd like her to be released to me, please. Are you charging her right this second? If you're not charging
right now.
Are you charging her?
She's detained, sir.
Okay, you need to release her.
No, sir.
Next, you hear the Conroe ISD officer call the DA's office and discuss filing an assault on a public servant charge.
She assaulted a teacher, slammed her into a wall,
Lombardo eventually sees his daughter driven away in custody. He says he assumes she's assaulted an administrator until 1 week later when he watches all of the video.
My anger turned to rage.
The No Kids in Cuff law, which passed following our investigation, states a peace officer may not restrain a student enrolled in 5th grade or below unless the student poses a serious risk of harm to the student or another person. Lombardo says the body cameras prove McKenna was not posing an immediate threat to herself or anyone at the time she was handcuffed. But this is what's even more upsetting to him.
She assaulted you. She did assault me. Now, was she pinning me up against the door? Did she block the door and let harm happen to me there?
It's conversations you hear about the incident back in the classroom before officers ever arrived.
That's up to you, though, if you want to do something like that, that's totally your call.
I mean, if it'll help.
Lombardo believes the officers repeatedly coerced the teachers as they discussed whether charges should be filed against McKenna.
Did you think about that?
I felt silly doing that.
I've seen way less.
Oh.
I've seen way less. Well, she's in handcuffs already, so she's going to now. She just gets charged with assault. Assault on a public servant. Oh, yeah. It don't matter.
They were doing whatever they could in order to solicit a felony charge against a 10-year-old. It's sick. I mean, a special needs 10-year-old.
3 days after the arrest, a second staff member files another assault report stating during the bathroom incident, McKenna, quote, slammed her hands and body into the dispenser, injuring the woman's hand. She states, I yelped because it hurt.
I didn't hear her yelp. I didn't hear any injuries that would have been sustained that would be consistent with what was depicted in the police report, to include all the photographs.
We took the pictures, reports, and video to the advocacy group which brought the No Kids in Cuff bill to Austin last year, and to the senator who wrote it.
The school should have determined whether there was other alternatives other than putting a 5th grader, a 10-year-old in handcuffs. In this situation, she wasn't posing a danger to herself and anyone else at that point in time. And it appears as though, based on looking at the video, the justification was made up after the fact.
Sounds like an assault of a local business.
Do it, and it'll help.
What really perturbed me was a teacher was being pressured. The pressure that we saw came from the officer. It goes counter to their values, and it was very disappointing to see.
Both the Minaret Foundation and Senator Royce West say the purpose of their law was to prevent the short and long-term impacts this discipline has on a child. McKenna's family allowed us to ask her.
I'm worried because I don't want it to happen to anybody else. Younger than me, older than me. I know I was being like bad and I wasn't listening to the teachers, but I didn't think I was going to get arrested.
When we first began digging into these cases, our CBS data team learned that children with disabilities nationwide are arrested at 4 times the rate of non-disabled children. And then in Texas, children with disabilities and minority children are arrested at higher rates than their white and non-disabled counterparts. For this investigation, our data team dove back into all of those numbers we had been looking at, this time looking specifically at the school and the restraint data there. In Texas, in 2021, we found that about 4% of the students with disabilities at Crier Intermediate were restrained. Statewide, less than 0.5% of all students with disabilities were restrained. And our data team, Doug, called that a stark difference.
You know, I've got a question for you, but candidly, first a thought. And my first thought is, if not but for the video, you know, would we have ever even heard about this thing? And the answer,
no.
Maybe not, right? Probably. But regarding McKenna, before this was all over, for clarity, she actually faced not 1 but 2 assault on a public servant charges after everything we saw.
That's right. So 1 for what happened before the officers ever arrived, and we don't see that on video. And then the second for the incident you do see on video in the bathroom. I do have an update for you though here. This is the latest. On July 31st, during McKenna's intake hearing, the Lombardos say Montgomery County listened carefully to them and then dropped all of those charges.
Doug, I also want us to look at the other side of this for a second, because I've covered a lot of these cases, and I've heard from many of you teachers out there who talk about how difficult and dangerous the classroom can be for them and for other students. I've heard from you. So to find out what more we may not have seen on this video, if there was anything we missed at all, I reached out to the Conroe ISD and to the police. I even asked Conroe ISD for its policies about arresting and restraining, which Senator West asked me to get for him. The school did not provide that. They would only send a statement saying it could not respond due to student privacy laws. And I still haven't heard from Conroe ISD police.
Well, you made the calls, you gave the opportunity to reach out and to hear the other side, and that's what we do. Ginger Allen, I-Team, thank you so much.
It's a process that goes through. And do you think there could be a lawsuit? I bet there could. I mean, hey, you violated the state law, you violated new state law, and now we're going to sue you. It'd be a good lawsuit to do. Sue the school district and say, well, you violated state law, therefore I'm going to sue you, take you to court. The police department, the police department, and the school district, for not only violating the law, but the teachers that insisted on pressing those charges, those two ought to be fired immediately. Who's the victim in this case? The 10th grader. In this case here, the 10th grader is the victim here, because of what happened. Now, in our next season, we're going to be doing an investigation into kids in cuffs by looking into the No Kids in Cuffs law. When we return, we're going to read to you the No Kids in Cuffs law prior to a preview of what I'm going to be talking about to our next season as we start a new Give Me a Break investigation into kids in cuffs, including kids being arrested in our schools, which also priors to kids in cuffs. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're joining us, we're talking about kids being arrested as well. We're talking about kids that have been arrested. So far, we looked at a body cam footage showing a 10-year-old being arrested for 2 charges of assault. After that, all the charges were dropped by the Montgomery County. But now let's look deeper into the No Kids, No Cuffs law, which is Section 37.0021 of the Education Code. The bill prohibits the physical, mechanical, and chemical restraint of students under the age of 10 by peace officers and school security personnel unless they pose a serious risk of harm to themselves or others. Children ages 10 and younger in Texas have been restrained for a minor offense such as causing disturbance in class, even violating the dress code. Oh, you want to violate the dress code? You're going to jail. Oh, you want to burn my class? You want to burn my class? You want to fun in class? Okay, that's it. You're going to jail. During the 2018 to 2019 school year in Texas, there were nearly 45,000 incidents which students were restrained. Students with disabilities experienced 91% of all reported restraints, though they make up just under 10% of all students. These statistics illustrate that restraint is too often reported for children exhibiting nonviolent behavior in the classroom. This legislation provides clear guidance for all school personnel in regard to when restraints can be and cannot be restrained. Our conversations and work with law enforcement officers have highlighted one main theme. Our officers do not want to restrain children. Law enforcement guidance was used in drafting of No Kids, No Cuffs. Put simply, limiting traumatic interaction between peace officers and children is just as beneficial as peace officers as children. Thus, state of Texas found closing this public policy loophole did not have a fiscal note. Furthermore, research highlights that when a person, in this case an officer, witnesses a child undergoing trauma, they may develop vicarious trauma manifest PTS syndromes, including anxiety, depression, fatigue, etc. Unfortunately, this legislation would keep children safe by protecting them from physical and emotional trauma in the classroom, preventing them from being criminalized early in early life. So now, let's go to the icing of the cake. Section 37.0021 of the Texas Penal Code. You may not see it, but it's going to be the start of this new investigation we're working on this season, and we're going to preview it for you right now. It is the policy of the state to treat with dignity and respect for all students, including students with disabilities who receive special education services under Subchapter A, Chapter 29. A student with a disability who receives special education services under Subchapter A may not be confined in a locked box, locked closet, or a specially designed locked space as either a discipline management practice or behavior management technique. Paragraph C says, a school district employee or volunteer or an independent contractor of district may not place a student in seclusion. This subsection does not apply to use of seclusion in a court-ordered placement, other than the placement of an educational program of a school district, or in a placement or facility to which the final law, rules, or regulations apply. All this requiring to the commission by rules shall adopt procedures for use of restraint and timeout by a school district employee or volunteer of an independent contractor with a student in the case of a student with disability receiving special education services of subchapter A, chapter 29. They must be consistent with professionally accepted practices and standards of discipline techniques for behavior management and health, identify any discipline management practice, and provide written notice to the student's parents or person standing in parental relation to the student of each restraint. The name, district employee, and restraint, all this. A peace officer performing law enforcement duties as a school security personnel performing security related duties with school property or at a school sponsored or school related activity may not restrain use of a chemical, errant spray, or taser on a student enrolled in 5th grade or below unless the student poses a serious risk of harm to the student and the person. So, did the school district violate the subsection J, paragraph J? Yes, they did. That school district that arrested that 10-year-old, they violated that law. Now, if the father went up to the school board and said, hey, I have body cam footage of what happened saying that you violated the law. Well, they were probably not aware of this law. If you were sitting right at the bench and say, here, you violated the law, and I have proof that you did. I have proof you violated the law, and I have here the law. Shove it right in their face and say, here's the law, here's the proof I have. Address the superintendent and be like, oh my God, you're right. We'll take care of this right away. This section of this section and any rules or procedures adopted under this section apply to a peace officer only if the peace officer is employed with the commission of the school district, provides a school resource officer, the regular police president of the school district, campus or memorandum of understanding between the district and local law enforcement agency. So this applies to everything. So teachers out there, you need to be aware of section 37.0021 of the Education Code. This was just passed. Remember this. Again, that is section 37.0021 of the Education Code, or the No Kids in Cuffs law. You can feel free to review this online, or if you'd like to know more about ways to handle kids, about handling your students, we'll post that on our newsletter, along with the law here. For more information about this law, you can go to statutes.capital.texas.gov, click on Education Code, click on Chapter 37, then scroll down to section 37.0021 of the Education Code. That's where you want to start, because that's where it all runs. We'll also have the link to the law on our newsletter at www.givemeabreak.substack.com. We'll be right back. You know, and oftentimes when we do stories about looking into kids in cuffs, it makes me wonder, is there any hope for everybody that is any hope that when we see, by saying good examples, well, for 5th grade and under, you put a 5th grade in handcuffs, I mean, you're implying that, you know, you're basically implying if you imply that we put kids in cuffs, whether it's 5th grade or under, we're basically just like, let me tell you something. We all know there are some bad things going on in our schools. There's gang activity, drug activity, bullying in the extreme where the violence is real, and maybe you have to make sure those kids get pulled out. I mean, we want safety and discipline in our schools. Those are two things that we need. We don't need to see any child being put into the juvenile justice system for very minor behavior that could be easily handled by a parent. I mean, something like this, what we saw today, that could have easily been handled by the father. Punishment would have been good, you know? And from what we've heard, I believe that the school district needs to start realizing the law, giving the policy to Ginger Allen and saying, here, take this to the senator, we need to do some work. The superintendent needs to start looking at that law and saying, you know what? We need to abide by this law, otherwise we could be facing legal consequences. And school board and school attorneys can sit there and say, you know what, that's a great idea. I'll tell you this, I have never been arrested before. I have been threatened to be put in cuffs. I'll tell you the truth. But the thing people need to understand here is that we don't need to be placing any 5th grader in cuffs, especially with disabilities. You want to arrest a disability person? By my me, but according to what we saw, it is not okay to be placing a child in handcuffs. Unless they propose a threat to the student or the teacher or to him or herself. If they possess a threat, they maybe have the right to arrest them. But the thing to understand here is this. We want safety and discipline. That's all we want. But like these kids, like the 5 who was arrested, this happened back in 2005. This all started 19 years ago. 19 years ago in Florida, there was a 5th grader. She was handcuffed by St. Petersburg, Florida police for throwing a tantrum in preschool. The 9-year-old, he was not arrested. He was suspended for sexual harassment for calling his teacher cute. Miss Taylor is cute. The school later apologized for his principal retired. I mean, cops and kids in the classrooms has some serious consequences. It's ridiculous. You just can't make this stuff up. And if this were a talk show with a microphone at hand, I mean, I'm like, well, what are your thoughts about all this? It'd be exactly what we'd be doing here. Like conducting a talk show all about kids in cuffs, presenting all the examples, and with a microphone at hand, going on like all this, that, and the third. That's what it would be like. Gosh, I love that new speaker. Going on topic here. The thing you have to understand here is this. We want our children to be safe. We want to reduce crime in our schools. You can't make something up like this, like burping. Like Francisco Montano. He burped in class. He was like, it burped. Excuse me. Quit talking. You are disrupting. Okay, you want to disrupt my class? Okay, then 911, I saw he was running my class, put him in handcuffs. Okay. Because you disrupted the educational process. We are going to handcuff you and we're going to place you in a juvenile correction center. So please put your hands behind your back. Walk into the car. Get your ass into the car. And we'll take you to the juvenile detention center. Then the detention center called his mother, Annette Montano. But he was never prosecuted. Instead, he's now suing the school. He sued the school and the police. But the Albuquerque police say they only make arrests if the disruption is so bad. Students can't teach, teachers can't teach, and students can't learn. But for the case we talked about, I hope the father does sue the district for violating that state law. It may be similar to what, the school won't comment saying, do you have privacy laws? Well, screw the privacy laws. The school district violated the law. And look, people may sit down here and say, well, we don't care about any laws we break. I mean, there are state laws and there are laws that you serve your country for. State laws are made by state representatives and they're signed by the governor. Federal laws are made by the federal offices of Washington, D.C., and then they're signed by the president. Once it's signed into law, it passes. And then it goes into effect. City ordinances are made by the city council, which the management has the authority to sign into an ordinance what goes on. And we have to follow it by the letter, or we could be fined. It's also known as local laws. Federal, local, state. Those are key words. That's key words. I hope you'll join me weeks from now for the season 8 premiere of our show. It's all about Workplace Confidential. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Jonathan Carmody. Have a good night.